The Detroit Pistons are in a interesting place right now because everyone is kind of in this like frozen mode of like, what are they going to do? Right? Are they going to blow it up? Are they going to try to bring in a big fish to try to save the day? Are they going to get rid of the coaching staff? Who's going to be the next president of basketball operations? There's so much questions about what this season is going to be. I wanted to do a video on what I see as an opportunity for them to actually turn this thing around because I don't think it's as complicated as a lot of people are making it out to be. I responded to one guy's comment and I said, look, you're already at rock bottom. You can't get any lower than this. The team sucks. And not because they don't have talent, but because of everything that happened last season. I mean, people act like it's a normal thing to start off with all of your veteran players on the injured list, right? And to be dealing with a brand new coach and a player coming back from a year long injury who's supposed to be your number one scorer and your main playmaker and franchise player. And then you have to integrate him with a guy who played his role, Jaden Ivey, who was a rookie, but now is going to play for the first time. I mean, all the stuff going on throughout this season. People had this weird expectation that they were supposed to be this great team, or somehow I heard this one Pistons podcaster who uh, projected them at like 30, 35 wins. And I was like, where? Where does the youngest team in the NBA, who has all of its veterans injured at the start of the season, somehow supposed to be a right outside the play-in team at 35 wins, right? And I thought that that missed expectation from the very beginning threw everybody off. But some of the things that I want to point out was what I actually saw working well for this team and what bodes well for most young teams and how they turn it around. The first thing that I want to point out is that they become a defensive minded team. And when I say a defensive minded team, I mean a team that is wholeheartedly from top to bottom committed to the defensive end of the floor. Whether or not you have shooting, whether or not you have great half court offense, whether or not you have all the different pieces that you need, if your team is committed 100% to defense, you win in the NBA. Look at the Orlando Magic. Did they have great shooting? Hell no, and yet they were still in the playoffs. You look at a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? They did have great shooting, but they got there not because of their shooting, but because of their defense. LeGuins Dort and Chet Holmgren and those boys, right? You look at other teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves. They don't have great shooting, right? They have a really great shooting big man in Karl Anthony Towns, and then they have a bunch of guys that you're hoping get hot, like a Jaden McDaniels, right? Anthony Edwards is solid from the 3 point line. He can get hot, but their calling card is defense. And so the first thing that this team has to do is get back to how they actually started the season. When Asar Thompson started the year in the starting lineup, this was a defensive minded, hard nosed team. And that's how they were in every single game. Whether or not they could close the game, that was the challenge. But most of that was because they didn't have the scoring and the shooting and the veteran leadership and the know how. But the defense, that's what actually allowed them to stay in the game in the first place. The Detroit Pistons have to get back to that identity. I think they have the personnel, whether it's Asar Thompson at the point of attack, Isaiah Stewart being this kind of Swiss Army knife interior defender who's able to call out defensive sets from the back end. Whether it's Jalen Duren who's able to clean the glass, which is a huge part of defense, right? You got to end the possession with the possession of the ball. You got Jaden Ivey who was able to begin to commit himself to the defensive end, which I thought was highly needed. Then you have Cade Cunningham who played defense at Oklahoma State. I think for some reason, whether it's coming back from the injury, conditioning, workload, pressure, all different things, he was just really inconsistent with his defense. But his ability is there. You go to the bench, you have guys like Marcus Sasser and Quentin Grimes, right? These are dogs on defense coming out of the University of Houston. And then you have guys like James Wiseman. And if you watch last season, I kept saying it over and over, James Wiseman is huge. He is a legit 7'1" with a 7'7" wingspan who is big. And when guys see him under the basket, similar to a Rudy Gobert, they don't just rush into the rim. This is the advantage of having real size in front of the rim. I know Jalen Duren is big, but he's more wide big than he is tall big, right? And so he doesn't exactly impose himself in the same way. And so Isaiah Stewart really helps out a lot, as does Asar Thompson, who's a great weak side shot blocker and on ball shot blocker. But when it comes to that bench unit, James Wiseman does a hell of a job just in his presence alone and staying big, keeping his hands and arms up and active in passing lanes and challenging shots. Right. So that has to be the foundation of this team. They have to commit to commit themselves to that side of the ball. And they have to look each other in the eyes and say, look, I'm going to look out for you and you're going to look out for me. Just like Jalen Suggs does with Franz Wagner, does with Wendell Carter Jr. and Paulo Banchero. That team everyone looked at each other and said, we will have each other's back. And that is something that has to be agreed upon. And that's something I think Monty Williams can install into this team is that identity. This is low hanging fruit here. It's the basics. The second thing is they have to increase their transition offense. This has to be a mainstay. No more slowly bringing the ball up by Cade Cunningham. And I'm not even saying Cade has to rush. What I'm saying is the moment that he gets the ball, he has to be looking up the court for Asar Thompson and Jaden Ivey. This is something I pointed out very early before the season even started. When I saw them in the Rico Hines run, I said, you have two all-world athletes in Ivey and Thompson. You have to utilize them to get easy opportunities at the rim. And when they can begin to turn the ball over, especially with Asar Thompson as a point of attack defender, who is so disruptive. I mean, you cannot say you watched the Pistons last season and not tell me you didn't see how absolutely terrorizing Asar Thompson is on the ball or off. He makes so many plays that allows this team to be able to disrupt the other team's offense and to be able to force bad shots, have teams getting their shot off uh, late in the shot clock, clean the glass, and get out and run. This has to be fundamental. And this is how most young teams actually kickstart their offense because they know they're still learning how to play in the half court. They know they're still learning how to execute pick and rolls and knowing where their shots are going to come from. And so they don't rely on great half court offense. They rely on their transition game to be able to get out and get easy looks. Even if you don't get an initial layup at the rim, you have your secondary break, where because the defense is sprinting to get back to cover things, you get a lot of mismatches. So it allows you to take advantage of a small guy on Jalen Duren or a small guy on Isaiah Stewart who's shown he could post up. Matter of fact, most of this team can post up pretty well. And so taking advantage of those opportunities has to be essential. The third part, I would say, is they have to simplify the offensive package all the way through. No more Cade Cunningham. I know you want to see what each guy can do, but I think you need to simplify what you're asking of them to do, what you want their reads to be. Look, Cade Cunningham, when you come off that pick and roll, you're looking to, put your defender in jail, get him locked behind you, get to your little pull up at 15 feet, or you're looking to finish at the rim, or dump it off, or lob. Real simple. Those four things. All four things you do really well, but you have a quick check off. I'm not looking for you to, go through all the different looks, a guy to kick out to the opposite wing, opposite corner. No, I want you downhill, right? Jaden Ivey, very similarly. I think they actually created a shot package for him, which I think really kickstarted him in that starting lineup to actually start looking better and better because they simplified his reads. We don't need you to read everything because you can't at this stage of your development. You're only in year two. And so we're only going to ask you to read these simple things. Then you have guys like Asar Thompson and Isaiah Stewart who are moving off the ball. These are the guys that you want cutting off the ball. So when the primary ball handler begins to get to the rim and they get stuck, they have a guy who can bail them out. Because Asar and Isaiah Stewart are really good finishers. When you have those guys moving off the ball towards the rim, it gives you an opportunity to be able to kick the ball to them and allow them to use their size and athleticism at the rim and score easily. And the last part is, well, not the last part. I have two more. Let's get some more post ups of Jalen Duren. I think he's a mismatch 99% of the time, unless he's up against Joel Embiid. He's going to be able to score against most defending centers, which means that giving him early touches down by the rim is going to allow him to get himself going and allow him to create that gravity that forces defenses to suck into him and then give him an opportunity to kick the ball out because he's actually a really good facilitator out of the post. And the last part is going to be the bench mob. The bench mob of Quentin Grimes and Marcus Sasser. I already did a video on it that I think that they're going to be amazing for the Pistons next season. I think coming in off the bench, they're going to give opposing bench guards hell, similar to the way TJ McConnell and Ben Shepherd does, where they just push the pace. They're constantly attacking, getting downhill, looking to get their shots off, and they put a lot of pressure on you where they're able to extend leads, get into their offensive sets, and wear you out on the defensive end. Now, I love Simone Fontecchio and his three-point shooting. Shot around 37, 38% this year, but he shot over 40% after he went to the Detroit Pistons. And you got guys like James Wiseman defending the rim. Now, the last thing I'm going to throw out there is I think that the best draft pick for the Detroit Pistons, and I might do a video on this as well, is to go after Ron Holland. Ron Holland is a dog. He's a straight dog. He's everything the Detroit Pistons love in a player. He's a guy who loves defense, has a high motor, and plays both ends. On the offensive end, he's a bucket. Yes, he doesn't have great three-point shooting yet. That's fine. But his jump shot, his form looks great. And he's really good from mid-range, whether it's that 18 feet all the way in. He's got a great pull-up jump shot. It's real smooth. It's real natural. And he can get to the rim at ease. If you listen to some of the commentaries, some of his old teammates, Norris Cole, right, he played with the Miami Heat, LeBron James, he had a comment on him. He said, look, he's just a workhorse. He's a guy who gets it done, who doesn't need to have all the skills and all everything in place. He's going to be a guy that's going to compete night in and night out. He's going to go at you on the defensive end. He's going to go at you on the offensive end. And he's going to get to the rim. He's going to get to his shots. He's going to put pressure on you. He's been one of the better players in high school, better players in the G League Ignite, averaging over 20 points a game. And let's also remember, the G League Ignite is an NCAA all-star game every single night. Everybody there was great in the NCAA. He's not playing up against Tulane, right? He's playing up against that All-American who didn't make it into the league yet, right? That's who he's going up against, and he averaged 20 points per game. Now, it wasn't as efficient. He's 19. You can't expect great efficiency from a 19-year-old jumping into a man's game from high school. So these are the changes that I think, and not even changes, I think these are the focuses that I think if this team has going into training camp, that if they can really focus on a defensive foundation, getting out in transition, right? Having a simplified shot package of what you want your guys to actually look for on the offensive end, moving without the ball. You have your bench mob, and then definitely get it into the post. I think it could keep things real simple and manageable. And it's going to get down to the point where now you have an opportunity to find success, right? Having things be successful is more important than feeling like you could do everything. So what if you're not great at shooting? Still be able to execute and get to the rim and put pressure on the rim, right? And see if you can out rebound and out physical teams, right? See if you can get out in transition by playing great defense. These are things that can make up for a lack of great shooting or a lack of experience. Shoot, the Orlando Magic did it. Why can't the Pistons do it, right? As always, I want to know what you all think. Holler at me in the comment section if you agree, disagree, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'm going to get at y'all next time. Peace.